In this special bonus episode of Brush with Knowledge, we bring you a captivating community conversation recorded live at the Rochester Contemporary Arts Center. Returning guests Daystar Rosalie Jones and Unique Fair, along with newcomer James Kegler, join us for an engaging discussion on the power of teaching artistry. While the event was edited for time, this episode features the most insightful moments and highlights from an unforgettable evening of art, education, and connection. Hi, I'm Larry Moss, and I'd like to welcome you to Brush with Knowledge. Throughout this series, we're going to explore the role of teaching artistry as a tool to transform education and ignite your imagination. In each episode, we'll highlight the work of a different teaching artist and offer ideas that you can use in your own classrooms, meetings, and even the larger communities you serve and live in.
Thanks everybody for being here. I'm Bleu Cease. I'm the director here at Rochester Contemporary Arts Center. We're here for a terrific program. I'm excited for this. What the heck is a teaching artist anyway? We're going to learn today from three artists and a terrific arts administrator and artist. I know we're going to talk about the importance of art education in schools, and we're going to talk about and learn about how at least three artists balance their own work and their educational practice, and hopefully how we all, and Teaching Artists ROC, is increasingly supporting artists to do this important work in our community. I know that Larry will talk more about the need for the organization. I would love to just orient you real briefly to our organization. We have a nice long history in the community. We were founded in 1977 as part of the artist space movement. This is a well-articulated kind of movement in the hippie era in response to the museums of that time. Many spaces like ours were founded between, say, 1969 and maybe 1980. And unfortunately, many of our peers have gone out of business or they've merged with a university. But we're still here, we're going strong, and we've been in this location since 2001. Our mission is to both bring artists to Rochester for the first time and to support the local art community, support local artists, and exhibit local artists, in many cases giving regional and local artists their first professional, real kind of white wall gallery exhibition. I don't want to say real, but you know what I mean. And we're also increasingly involved with public art around the community and advocacy. As we've stabilized and grown, we've been able to and had the luxury and the privilege to be able to advocate for a more just and a more robust and a more ethical art community, hopefully. During the pandemic, ROCO kind of carved out a position to be able to advocate for some of our smaller peers, upstart arts and cultural organizations and advocacy organizations. So that's especially why I'm excited to be able to host this program today. Please join me in welcoming the chief cook and bottle washer behind Teaching Artists ROC, Larry Mon.
Thank you all for coming today. We're going to have a little fun, or a lot of fun, I hope. We already gave the introduction. We are here to explore the role of teaching artistry as a tool to transform an education and your imagination. And doing that with me today, I have some incredible teaching artists that I have the opportunity to work with regularly. Start at the end there. Unique Fair is a talented fine artist and educator who combines his artistic skills and activism to inspire positive change. He does this in his role as a professor at RIT, as well as in classrooms with grade school kids. I love the range that he works with. So it is me. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. James Kegler is a passionate and accomplished singer/spoken word artist with over a decade of performance experience. Presently, he continues to create and perform all around the state and is currently a program coordinator at the Center for Teen Empowerment, guiding young people through their journey of self-advocacy, civic duty, and performative arts. And James actually is so busy today, he ran in here from another event that he was out there with some of his kids doing another event before he got here. And lastly on the panel, we have Daystar Rosalie Jones, a Pembina Chippewa woman who dances, sings, and tells stories about Native American people and places. She's also the founder of the Daystar Dance Company. And I want to acknowledge the work of Rosalie and all of the years she has put into this. She has been a teaching artist longer than the other two panelists have been alive. So Rosalie, I would love to start by just turning things over to you for a moment.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to stand up for this. Larry has asked me to do what has become quite a wonderful ritual to begin any kind of gathering. That is the indigenous land acknowledgment. And so I'm honored to do that. I certainly am not from this part of the world. I'm from Montana, Blackfeet Reservation, but ancestry with Pembina Chippewa Creek. But I'm fairly familiar with the Haudenosaunee people. And I will start by asking, is anyone here Haudenosaunee ancestry? Okay. So if that person here, that would be special. Haudenosaunee people have, of course, lived on this land for millennia. The Haudenosaunee are also called the Six Nations, and originally 5 nations. But at a point in history, the Tuscarora asked to join the Confederacy, and they did take them under their wing because the Tuscarora were driven from their own homelands farther south. So the Six Nations, and I will begin with Eastern New York, far Eastern New York, is the Mohawk territories. As we move toward the west, we have the Tuscarora, and then next would be the Onondaga, which is the central fire and the central core of the Haudenosaunee. You might say the eldest brothers. And then the Cayuga, and next the Oneida, and then we come to the Seneca here in this territory. So sitting here in our chairs and walking around in Rochester, New York, we actually are on Seneca land. And I want to thank the Seneca people for their history, for their elders, for their culture, and especially I want to thank them for their permission to allow us to be here on their land. And that is a privilege, and I feel privileged to be able to work here and live here and to be part of acknowledging their culture, the Haudenosaunee.
Thank you for that. Before you sit, or maybe from your seat, I don't know. I would love also. You said you had a welcome plan.
Well, okay, I'll go ahead. I always like to give people the opportunity to learn a song. Very often when I do workshops or even performances, but especially workshops in the schools, I almost always do a welcome song. This welcome song is from the Inuit people. And the Inuit, as we may all know, are from the northwest, northern territories. If you'd like to join me, you don't need the language because this song is always done with vocables. These people are seafaring people. They are always out on their boats, and they take their sustenance from the oceans, the seas, the bays around which they live. So very often, today, or especially in the past, you might have a boat or a canoe, a large seafaring vessel approach from the waters up to the shore. And the people come down to welcome everyone who's coming. And so this is the welcome song. I'll sing it first, and then we'll see if we can all sing it. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Ha, ha. Yay, ha, ha. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Ha, ha. Yay, ha, ha. Okay, so the words are yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Can we all say those very simple words? Okay. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. And that's repeated through the song. And then at the end, it's characteristic that there is a sort of explosive vocable. Yay, ha, ha. I'll do it. Yay, ha, ha. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to stand out in as you sing. Okay, let's go. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Ha, ha. Yay, ha, ha. And then repeat. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Yay, hoo, yay, hoo, yay. Ha, ha. Yay, ha, ha. Ending. Yay, ha, ha. Okay, thank you so much. Welcome.
All right, so that kind of, that introduction kind of gets to the heart of what a teaching artist is all about. It's not, we could start out, we're going to have a conversation here about teaching artistry and the ways that everybody can be connected to this and the things you can all do. But that example, much more, the teaching artist is likely to walk into a room and engage everybody right from the beginning, invite everybody into what they're doing and the history and the culture. In Rosalie's case, in someone else's case, it might be biology or other STEM fields. The idea is to find those hooks that engage people and bring them in right from the beginning. So in my mind, what I wanted to do, kind of lay a little groundwork here. In my mind, that I've been having conversations with teaching artists one-on-one, recorded and sharing them with the world on what a teaching artist is. So the definition that I want to start with, a teaching artist is different from an artist that teaches, is really the thing that I want to stick with in your heads. At the heart of that distinction, teaching artists use their art to teach so much more, from history and culture to math, and even addressing mental health needs. In short, teaching artistry is about integrating arts in all forms of education and engaging learners. So that's the definition that I've kind of been tossing around in my head, something that I'm happy with, that satisfies me. But I would love to have you guys chime in with your thoughts on definition of a teaching artist. How'd I do?
Pretty good overall. I would say, if I had to simplify it best, to me, a teaching artist is an artist who primarily incorporates teaching and education into their practice, not just as something that they want to do maybe on a Sunday, but something that they look at and pursue as necessary in their practice.
in my perspective of a definition is not making a definite line between artists and a person who's just trying to facilitate seeking themselves out. So really a teaching artist is more so of a guide and a facilitator through their own experience with others through their creative journey of finding who oneself is.
I feel that every artist should be a teacher. Now, not every artist wants to be a teacher, but in my life, I found that I got into dance as a 20-year-old, and I was incredibly passionate about just dancing, about movement, about being physically active, about finding what that is in your body that expresses strength, flexibility, emotion, a story, expressing your own story. But very soon, as you're being passionate and experimenting, trying different things, I found that I couldn't keep it just to myself. I had to interact with others, all ages, babies in the cradle, old people sitting on a bench, and everybody in between. So I think what I learned from teaching was far more than what I just learned being a dancer.
So you said every artist should be a teaching artist, and anybody jump in here. Any artist should be a teaching artist. Who can be a teaching artist? Is it just those artists? Is that, like, my goal in doing this was to invite others into this and to not feel that there are any barriers, kind of like sitting in this room with all these 6x6 pieces, the idea of there shouldn't be barriers to creating art, and I believe that there shouldn't be barriers to those that can be teaching artists.
Yeah, I'd add to that. I would say one of the most important things to remember with the arts is that we look at arts as a profession, but it's really a core element of human expression. We've all expressed ourselves, and that is in itself an act of art. And we've done this since before we were us. The cavemen that came before us were making art. It's a part of us more than humanity is a part of us. It's the center of it, if anything. I'd say at the end of the day, what you're passionate about, the things that you want to express, those are the things you can be a teaching artist for, and you should be a teaching artist for. Whether or not you're reinventing something or you're keeping a tradition alive that has that you've inherited over time, those things are worth teaching. Those things are worth expressing as a part of your human experience.
If I could add to that, these terms, teacher, artist, we start to realize they're just vehicles for relationship building, for communication, for relativity, and they've become within like the modern and contemporary time like these labels for folks, you know what I'm saying, who are good at something. When it's like the idea of all of these different roles who are just different ways to get through different types of people in order for them to understand the world around them and how things work. So that being said, I feel like it's always potentiality, and there's a difference between somebody who is a teaching artist who doesn't realize it, and then someone who takes the initiative in order to step into that role and that nomenclature in order to be that.
So I think we all got here for a reason. There were probably people in our past that inspired us to reach out and think the way that we're all talking about here. Share a story. Who's somebody in your past that inspired you to become a teaching artist?
The mentor in mind that stands out to me immediately as teaching artist goes would be Some of you may be familiar with him. His name is David Haygood. I don't know if that name resonates with several of you. David is a mentor of mine I've known since I want to say 12 years old. He's someone who does a lot of different work. He's a painter, of course. He's done mayoral portraits here in the city. He's also a fantastic musician. When I met him initially, he would take time on his Saturdays, every other Saturday, twice a month, 3 times a month, if it was possible, to just work with me and show me his process and how I could develop my own. And there was a certain level of patience and grace in that. I'm a 12-year-old who at the time, I'm from the city school district. The art programs are not robust. So he wasn't looking at it as let's see if he saw a potential and took the time to pour patience and generosity into that. And that's something that's always stood out to me. I've been fortunate enough to have other mentors, but I would say throughout my life, the people who've been very pivotal have all been teachers in some capacity. And that's something I'm very invested in giving back. I think we owe it to ourselves and the people around us to reflect the most beautiful parts of our lives. And education has been a beautiful part of mine.
Oh, there are lots of people. I think all of us have more than one person, multiple persons who inspired us along the way. And certainly I've had those individuals who you can't help but admire them and seek to emulate them, but still finding your own way of doing things, doing the work. But there's another aspect for me, which is that very early on I was raised by a family that was living on the Blackfeet Reservation and really in the midst of the culture and the songs and dances. And of course, the most public aspect of that is the powwow. Now, we don't have powwows in this area for the most part. And I think that's because the Haudenosaunee have their own social dances, their own ways of doing social dances. And it's not the powwow. But almost everywhere else across North America, particularly in the West and the North, you have those powwows. And I was going to those from a fairly early age. And there's nothing so exciting as going and sitting and watching the powwow dancers, the men, the women, all doing their own style of dance in their own particular required regalia. It's for all ages. I mean, so many times I've seen mothers leading their little kid who might be 2 years old, barely able to walk, but he or she is walking around with the mother around the arena. So it's ingrained from a very early age, and it's the drums calling you out to dance, and it's that insistent rhythm, the rhythm of the drum, and of course the singers, and the atmosphere, which is the energy that the drum and the singers are giving to everybody. And I think that was and still is my greatest inspiration to dance.
I wouldn't say it was a person. I would say kind of at a certain age, it kind of was this sense of rites of like a rite of passage. Me growing up, I realized I was raised by and around like people with this brilliance to them, like personality, spirit, but life kind of had to leg up over them. And then growing up, in my young teenage years, I got into youth homeless work. So coming into contact with young people dealing with housing instability, me going through housing instability from me being a kid up into my teenage years, and then getting into the job that I'm currently in, it just it told me and showed me that creativity, things like music, art, whatever it may be, is truly the vehicles I was speaking of earlier, but more so is pivotal when it comes to a lot of folks, when it comes to understanding life, the different systems at play that affects them, the different systems that's created in their own lives. And me growing up earlier on, I had an attachment to music and art, which made me a better communicator. Early on, I had like the sense of awareness of people, level of empathy that a lot of people around me wasn't showcasing. And I kind of stick that the difference was my connection to art, to music, to a culture that I wasn't even born in, due to, you know what I'm saying, due to the lack of culture in my family. So as I got older, I started to see exactly how creativity and an avenue to arts kind of like helps a person unwind and unweave from themselves that tension that just accumulated in life. And as they unweaved, it gave space for wisdoms and knowledge and approach and experience to life. And me being able to observe that, it kind of put a fire in my butt to put myself into the role to be a curator or a guide or a facilitator through the arts. And in order to do that, I needed to be the artist and be an artist myself. That was my attachment to even wanting to be what we refer to now as teaching artists.
It's interesting to me listening to you talk about your connection to the art and that connection to the thing that you needed internally, that you needed to have that release, you needed to have this other thing. I'm interested too, when we talk about teaching artistry and all of the places that we can reach and connect, the way art and what we do can tie in with other subjects. This might be a tough one. Follow me here, see if you get where I'm going with this. I'm interested in what other unusual connections to subject matter has your art taken you? What have you been able to show students? So one example that I have in my head right now, unique, is you as a painter. I have heard you talk about chemistry and being able to use what you've learned about your materials. What other unusual connections or surprising connections? What surprised you that you were able to bring into the classroom subject matter that was not directly about the art?
In that case, it starts a bit with the art, but it does swing back. Are any of you familiar with the phrase mummy brown? None, thank God. Mummy brown is a pigment that is used for painting. It looks very akin to yellow ochre. The reason why I encountered this name was because I was doing a lot of research on propaganda and how different communities have been affected through the arts. Mummy brown is a pigment that is literally made, or at least it was. It's not being made currently. It was made of the ground up flesh of cadavers and corpses found in northern Africa. And the reason why it was called mummy brown was because famously the corpses would be taken from Egypt. And part of that really interested me because there's obviously historical and cultural connotations as to why bodies were taken from those spaces. There's a lot of levels of pseudoscience involved in that, why people believed those things were beneficial for food, medicine, makeup, something as trivial as paint, for example. And that really got me invested in what our paint is made of and how it affects us. And obviously there are political ramifications in that material. There's also health and safety elements there. And that does lead into my painting when I'm teaching. With the piece here, for example, one thing I prioritize is not just the historical context of painting, but also the health and safety of painting. It's important, for example, that as an oil painter, two of the biggest concerns are usually solvents and pigments. And usually cadmium reds, for example, are really dangerous for you to be ingesting over time. They make you sick in the long run. And solvents are things that can be vapors in the off-gas and can be very dangerous for a person. A lot of my work involves me finding ways to circumvent those, either removing something entirely or finding a safer iteration of it. And a big element of that for me is to do that to increase arts accessibility. At the end of the day, I can make paint that's 2 cents for people to buy, but if it's unsafe for them to use, it's not really making it more accessible. It is essential that we balance accessibility and safety for the user. And part of that, again, goes back to the element of mummy brown. When we're talking about art and what it's made of and how it's made and what we consider appropriate and who is seen in work, that's something that's very vital to me. I'm interested in making sure that people are seen in art in a way that is respectful to them. That juxtaposes, again, that historical experience with Monty Brown, because I can't imagine a more disrespectful way to be involved in art. So making sure we are engaging with it on our own terms is very important to me.
I don't think this is unusual, but I find that I really have the urge to get the students out of the classroom, out into the environment, into nature. It's very possible to dance on the grass or the sand or whatever, but it's also getting anybody away from four walls. Go out the door. I mean, so you have to have weather good enough to go out, 6 feet of snow, it is something else. But I've found that students doing choreography are working in finding creative ideas, do better out in nature. Look at a stream, look at a tree, look at a leaf, sit on the grass, watch the bugs. An ant has a whole culture, living conditions, social interactions that are phenomenal. How do they navigate? How do they go away from the nest and find their way back again? Those kinds of things. And that really stems from the fact that all of us need to connect much more so with nature, because we are a part of nature. We keep forgetting that. We keep forgetting that we are animals. We are mammals. We're part of that whole system of the species in this world. And we're actually not superior, although we like to think of ourselves that way. But we're part of the fabric that makes the world what it is in a life-sustaining way.
Repeat the question again.
What's the thing that you ended up teaching that you surprised you?
I don't think it's like unconventional in any way. I just think that the majority of folks, at least who I've come into contact with, or through however many degrees I've known people through, I feel like a lot of people don't have the time nor energy or room for priority to think about certain things like community on certain levels, or even systemic work, systemic unity, systemic advocacy. Through me being a musician, voice is obviously important. In working with young people, I work with young people from the ages of 14 to 19, And I hire young people in order to have dialogue initially around the biggest issues that impact them and their counterparts the most. And usually it's like mental health, poverty, education, violence, gun violence, whatever it may be. And a lot of them aren't aware of how directly and indirectly a lot of these things affect them. And they also have no sense of idea of how to even go about changing these different things, which is putting them in front of community efforts and also systemic, like taking them to Albany, being able to have them lobby, talk about certain things. And more so, it shows the intergenerational disconnect. The young folks of today, a lot of them were raised by babies, so to speak. You know what I mean? And a lot of those babies didn't get enough closure because the generation that raised them, closure wasn't even a thing. Only stoicism and work exist. So the things that breeds into the young people today. So I work with the Kia boys. I work with the children who's failing out of school. I work with all of these kids. And when they come through the door and they have like this sense of, what can you offer me? I can only offer them reflection. You know what I'm saying? I can only offer them reflection, awareness, and the motivation, inspiration to connect to resources that will hopefully revitalize their community, but more so themselves in their household starting first. You know what I mean?
I definitely want to add on to that as well, that element of how severely people just, especially like the working class of America, have been so radically removed from the arts on a daily basis. I think one of the things we must grapple with in this generation is incorporating the arts in a day-to-day life. So often we look at it and we talk about things like, oh, you know, I'm not a painter, I'm not an artist. I can't tell you how many times I've been in this room and someone said, oh, I can barely draw a stick figure. And the whole point is, it's not about whether or not you can draw a stick figure, it's about whether or not you express yourself. That we are so conditioned to not express ourselves unless it is productive. We are taught to be productive and productive for productive's sake because we love production. It is not considered valuable in our society at times to just do something for the sake of expressing it. The question immediately becomes, oh, can you monetize that? Oh, is that something that's sustainable? Can you like pay for X? Can you pay for Y? And sure, monetization of your own work for your own benefit is beneficial, but we remove that from everyday folk. I think that also results in an unfortunate level of elitism in the arts. I think we are unfortunately segregating ourselves as an arts field when we don't fund the arts, when we don't give people opportunities to express themselves on a daily basis, whether it be in schools, rec centers, community spaces. The arts not being prevalent results in the arts being removed. And as I mentioned earlier, I think the arts are so essential to our day-to-day existence as human beings that we lose some part of ourselves. I think we lose a bit of our reason. I think we lose a bit of our compassion when our day-to-day is, again, production for production's sake. I want to thank you for that. That's great.
I want to take a small break from you talking about, production for production's sake. And I'm thinking, I've got my notes here, structure for structure's sake, right? Let's break from this for a second. As I think about this, Rosalie led us off with the Inuit welcoming. Unique has a painting up here in front of us for all of us to see. I haven't given James a chance to show off what he does. If you're up for it, I'd love for you to show us something.
I call it the Wheel of Fortune, and it's a spoken piece, but I can also rock with it on a rhythm. But it's one of my favorite pieces. It goes like this: entirely a black kid in dire need of a haircut. Stare at my naps like you fear them. They wish my black had a serum. I fall in line or die like it's prophesied by the Hebrew. They like me lax off the syrup. They like the lack in my spirit. I draw the lines to find the infinite grays in between them. Distinguish every detail in Jesus' lit. This third eye at first I couldn't see what it the first high. I learned high frequencies as a jit. Well, whenever war I declare it, I took the time in my tear ducts. I manage rhyming and juggling voices I hear them. I take my time when I'm self-care, repairing, and healing. Don't tear my tower down, but it's been hailing bricks from the ceiling. And it's evident I abandoned it. Ain't no turning back. Can't afford it on and on. Yeah, I gotta get with the changes now. And detached from the flesh, I've been hanging on and around on the wheel of fortune. I guess I'll Try my luck with the wheel of fortune. Lose it all, make it back with the wheel of fortune. Is it my turn to take a crack at the wheel? But I'm feeling like la 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 di da di da. La 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 di da la da da di 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 da 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 on the wheel of fortune. La 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 di da la da da di di di. Thank you. My favorite piece.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about how somebody, we've talked about what a teaching artist is, what they can do, subject matter. How does somebody become a teaching artist? And in particular, I'm wondering if any of you can speak to formal training or not. Like, what are your experiences? How did you get here? And what advice would you give to somebody that is interested in becoming a teaching artist?
Yeah, I think it depends on, because it's hard to be able to state what truly your purpose is from like in the onset of a journey. Like, I got into music because I wanted to be the coolest rapper ever. And then turns out now I'm doing performances, doing jazz fusion and things like that. And I don't do it anymore for the hopes of becoming financially stable or to even, enrich my personal image. Now I do it in order to be able to like sustain a sense of connection with the arts and with people. You know what I mean? So if I was to try to like bestow some perspective upon somebody who wanted to do either or both, like teach or be an artist, I would just say exactly like, what do you feel like your purpose is? And when it comes to purpose, I created like a equation for like the kids who I work with. I'm like, passion plus people equals purpose. So if you're passionate about something, you take that passion and it must be able to impact people in a positive way, on a positive level. And if you can do that, you find your purpose. And within your purpose, the universe, whatever power may be at play right now, rewards that output. You know what I'm saying? So like, in order to be able to teach, you need to be able to connect with people in the first place. Or you're a dictator. You know what I'm saying? You're just dictating things. And in order to be an artist, you need to be able to connect with what makes you feel, which in return makes other people feel. And that's when it becomes art. Art needs to be perceived. It needs to be felt. It needs to be embraced or rejected. But in order to reject, you need to feel something as well. It needs to be able to, evoke some type of feeling. So to find that purpose is what I would say in order for a person to step on their journey to becoming a teaching artist.
On my end, there's a Charles Bukowski quote that really sits with me. It's a whole poem, but the opening line is, find what you love and let it kill you. And not like in a bad way, but like the idea of the poem is this idea of being invested in something so much that it's a part of your day-to-day life that you will do it throughout for the sake of doing it. And I think that's what's really important. I think the goal of being a teaching artist, I think the first step is to go on a journey, not necessarily find it, but to go on a journey of finding what resonates with you, what is undeniable, what is the thing that you want to do on your best day, on your worst day, on a Tuesday, what is so essential for you. And when you find that answer, or you're at least getting closer to it, that can pull you in a bunch of different directions. For example, I went to RIT for my bachelor's degree, went back for a master's degree. I currently teach at RIT. I went a very academic route. I have friends who did the complete opposite. A great example being an artist some of you might be familiar with, Ephraim. He did the Senator John Lewis mural out in downtown Rochester. Me and him went to high school together. We then went in completely different directions, and I love that because I think we get very formulaic about success in our world, and we don't. I think that's the biggest mistake we can make. The path is divergent. The path has hills and valleys. It's going to go in different directions, but it is still a path. I think when you find that and you are searching for it, when you have that, it becomes a question of what is necessary on this journey to get there. On my goal, I really am invested in teaching on educational levels out in colleges and things like that. The elements of research I like to do certainly benefit from working with certain audiences. So in that case, I needed my master's degrees. I needed my ability to teach as an adjunct. But as well, I also want to make sure that my work is still engaging with the community. So a big part of that is working at the Memorial Art Gallery at the Flower City Arts Center. occasionally making sure my high school is just down the street from your World Inquiry. I will, every semester, I try to bring in the arts programs from my school to come to RIT just to give them a taste of what that could look like if that's something that they're interested in. And my goal isn't to have everyone walk out there and say, oh, I'm going to RIT. My goal is to give them perspective so that they can find the things that help them. I think one of the best ways to find what you like is to find what you don't like. Like the work, like deduction is as valuable as addition. Finding what resonates with you as a journey in that regard, where you have to look at what compels you and what doesn't. So like you were talking about with the young children you work with, giving them exposures to things and seeing how they react to it. I think my goal is not to tell you what to do. My goal isn't to like find what you want to do. My goal is to give you the tools to find yourself. And I think that's really that would be my second step. The first step being find or explore what it brings you satisfaction, and then help people do the same. I think those are the two steps, and that's way more complex than I'm making it. It's definitely not like something you put on the kitchen sink, but that's what I would say.
Okay, fantastic. That's actually the two of you managed to get out, I think, what I was going for, because I do get that question a lot, is what are the steps? What should I do to become a teaching artist? And the answer is there are a lot of paths. I like to point out that, there's value to those that have the ability and the mindset to be able to sit in the classroom. There's value in getting more formal training, getting those master's degrees, but it's not something that's critical. If you've got something to share, you can get there through other routes. What has been your most unexpected experience as a teaching artist?
Explaining why certain materials are potentially dangerous. I had a student who was using lighter fluid as a thinner for their paint, and I had to slowly explain to them very carefully why that is not a thing you can do a classroom.
Mediating fights between young people, especially when it's like it's a bit surface level and they start to they focus on the situation itself, and then you talk to them both and you realize they both have pent up aggression from traumatic or saddening or hurtful things that's happened at school or at home, and them coming to the realization to that, I think is the most craziest thing for me, because young people when I was younger didn't do that, so
Okay, can you share a moment when you realized the impact of your work on a student or a group of students?
I can tell a story that sort of connects into the last question you asked about becoming a teaching artist. I was fortunate to get a scholarship to study at Juilliard after I got the master's degree and all that. So I was there for a year. And then part of that scholarship was, the contract was that those who were sent on that would then go someplace to teach. I ended up being sent to Flandreau Indian School in South Dakota. And there were two of us. We went for a year, and we were to do some sort of final presentation after a year of teaching, for myself teaching dance to a group of high school students. And interestingly enough, it was an Indian school. I had more boys in the class than girls. And in most of Western society, it's exactly the opposite. You're lucky if you might get a guy or two in a class because of the mindset about dance. But that was one thing. The other thing was deciding what we were going to do for this final presentation. And they were having classes, like every day, standard dance classes. I tried to make it fun for them. And, sort of pushing the athletic part of it for the guys. Well, I said, we have to decide on a story that we're going to do. I said, what story would you like to do? It was unanimous, immediate. They said, we want to do the story of White Buffalo Calf Pipe Woman, which is a sacred Lakota story about a woman, sort of a spirit woman that comes to the people and gives them the pipe and other gifts. And everyone knows that story in Lakota land. And I knew the story, and I said, well, I don't know if we could really put that on stage. And I said, we have to talk to the elders. So we did. And the elders said, what other story should they do? This is the story that they are most familiar with. It's the story that is out of the culture, comes from the culture, and isn't it better for them to do something with this story than Cinderella? Or something that has no relationship to who they are as people in the culture. So that is what we did. And they worked very hard, and it was very simple movement, but it told the story, the characters in the story, what happened, the action, and ending with a powwow dance presentation. So that says something, first of all, about I didn't use any technique from Juilliard School to teach them. I developed my own method in the classroom based on natural movement. And it worked like a charm. I mean, it was their natural movement. It was some pulsations and drum beats from the powwow dance. It had characters. We used masks, and the elders approved of it. So it's a matter of knowing how to work with the people in front of you, acknowledging who they are and how they want to work. So rather than imposing something alien, it came from them, actually.
Can I tell one of my own? Listening to that and just seeing the response of those around the, this was earlier this school year. I was teaching a bunch of kids in an after-school program. We're getting them, teaching them podcasting and everything involved in podcasting, from the tech to the interview skills and learning how to speak to each other. And I remember when the class started, the first day we were in there, like, who is this guy? Why should we listen to him? The usual kind of thing you expect. High school kids, you bring somebody new in, it's not like them. And partway into this, we're several lessons in, and I learned that they started to pay more attention when there was tech being used. And we turned on the mics and started recording them and said, we're going to pretend that, podcast is, we're actually recording a podcast now. Let's go for it. And the one microphone became the talking stick. They learned the rule of the person with the talking stick gets to talk. And they started passing around this mic. And all of a sudden, I realized they had been listening and learning all along, when one of them turns to another one in there and says, so, we all know parents are important to us in our lives. His words. High school kids suddenly getting really serious. Where would you be today without your parents?
And all of these tough kids that didn't want to talk and share their feelings earlier suddenly had stories to tell and got very serious and intentional in their words and spoke and shared stories. And I felt like that was a moment that I felt like I made a difference and reached them. All right. How do you continually find inspiration to create new art and lesson plans?
Living. No, seriously. Like I got like friends who do music and they like crack out projects like 2 months, 3 months. And maybe like when I was a kid, that was cool because life was moving much faster, things were changing. But as I get older, I tend to live in the mundane. Like I love quietness. I love comfortability. I mean, I go out with the friends once in a while, but it's nothing that's life changing in order to like cause inspiration. So I think just reflection is what really gives me inspiration. It's like I go watch a bird fly by my window like 3 times and I just think about her in 3 different ways and then I get like 3 different points or whatever. I don't know. I guess as far as creating, you know, I have children. so that right there is enough.
On my end, there's a Beethoven quote I really like where he says, "To play a wrong note is insignificant. To play without passion is inexcusable." And that sits with me a lot where I consider myself a bit of a recovering perfectionist. I very much previously preferred being very precise, like laser-esque. And one thing that's really been helping me is to look at something and go, what if? And why not? Like, why not just try something and see how it looks, try something and see if it goes better? When it comes to teaching, often I'm taking a project that I do with people and ask, how can I make this more impactful? How can I make this resonate more? And sometimes it's just a slight shift in the formatting, the rules that project might have, the tools I'm giving the students. And that's often what's giving me the different result. In my own personal work at times, I'll just look at something and go, yeah, this whole thing is gold leaf and I have a whole thing, but what if it was green? And sometimes I'll just go, I'm going to let this be green. With a lot of my personal work, I've been leaning a bit more into abstract themings and putting different kinds of marks. And some of it's weird where I've taken a brush and cutting it backwards and using the stick of it. Other times I'm taking a hair pick and like using the lines that it makes to make a certain pattern or texture. A lot of it's just been me being comfortable with making something that, again, is not perfectly efficient. To make something that might be a little strange and a bit circuitous, but also is potentially a greater direction to go into. And being comfortable if I go down that direction and find, this isn't sustainable. Or maybe that, it just doesn't work. Maybe the other way, let's try again. Being comfortable with success and failure, ultimately.
I think part of what you're talking about is, and what I feel like it's needed still, is the idea of decolonizing, deconstructing what is art and what is education. And from where I come from, it's the Andes. So I feel like that, in what you're talking about, being a teaching artist, I think I love to see more of that creative thinking and see how we can like really not make that distinction between who's a teaching artist and who's an artist, because I feel that fits a division where like who's like a better artist and who's like a teaching artist, or like who's somebody that's working with kids versus somebody that is doing art that's going to be exhibited in a quotes and quotes recognized gallery. Yeah. So my comment and the question goes back to, how are you constantly decolonizing or deconstructing this division between art and education, and how do you deal with this idea of what it's, an artist being like a better thing than a teaching artist? And I think that's something that is unspoken sometimes, but it's something that might be perceived as that.
Yeah, if I may. I think the realm that it all lives in, right, when it comes to art and education, we navigate subjective truth, objective truths, principles, or personal criteria of what creates all of these things. And I think in order to decolonize, I think it's up to, like, the difference between me being an artist and a teaching artist is realizing that what I spread is only through objective truths and connections. My personal feelings for things, right, is when it's art, because it could still be my personal truths, but I'm not too push or try to bestow onto somebody else in a way that that's the way I want to facilitate me changing the world or the world around me. So I feel like that will directly kill the hierarchy of artists. Oh, good, because I tell people, it's like, the better your art is the better you know yourself, right? So if I play you guys my music and it doesn't sound good, it's because my connection to myself equals the connection, the objective connection. You know what I mean? I'm not connected to something, and I'm just sitting here talking and spewing. You know what I mean? But the better I get at it, the more people feel it, and then the more what I'm speaking becomes an objective truth. So when I get into that realm, and you start to, re-solidify and spread those principles and ways of thinking, I feel like that's when we become the teaching. It's like, okay, I know now what's healthy for another person to adopt or to embrace, for there to be success subjectively and objectively, which is like how they affect or ripple off of, their lives and how it affects people.
As well on that, you mentioned this idea of like this unspoken thing, and I'll say it's not unspoken. In our fields, especially as someone like, as an academic who's in these spaces, I do hear people say, oh, certain forms are quote unquote lesser forms. I've heard people use that terminology directly to talk about forms that are considered less ideal for the white cube of the gallery space. That's a very common thing, unfortunately. And disproportionately, the forms that are considered lesser are forms that are more accessible. Disproportionately, they're fields that are have cultural roots that non-Western Western traditions. Disproportionately, ones done by women or other marginalized demographics. I would say one thing that I think is important when it comes to the arts and the role we have to play is making sure we teach and understand the role propaganda in art plays in our communities and cultures. One element of my research is looking at propaganda and how it affects us. That's why I mentioned Mummy Brown earlier. And an example I can bring up is there's a film, 1915, it's called Birth of a Nation. Some of you may be familiar, it's a white supremacist film. It was the first film shown in the White House. Then sitting President Woodrow Wilson referred to it as history written with lightning, which is an incredible way to describe a terrible thing. The role that work of art played in shaping the American landscape, the way it normalized white supremacy, the way it directly correlated to hate crimes and lynchings and these things in America. I think one of the things we have to do to decolonize the arts and decolonize educational spaces is to be very aware of the role the arts have played in shifting cultural paradigms and what things that would have been acceptable when they stopped being accessible. The way that an Uncle Sam poster encouraging you to go to war, how that influences our society. I think arts comprehension and just reading comprehension and just comprehension in general is something our education needs to prioritize so people can be aware of how those things affect them and affect the people around them, especially now. This room is a perfect example, but I was reading a study a while back and it talked about on a daily basis, we see literally millions of images. And obviously we're all seeing 1 million plus now, but like on a daily basis, we see so many things that shift our opinions, shift how we look at other people in ways that are subtle and sometimes get under our skin. We have the responsibility as educators, I feel, to be aware of how those things affect people and why they affect them. And sometimes it's as simple as understanding that every fast food restaurant uses red and yellow because those colors make you hungry. Other times it's understanding that when a company or something releases a product that's meant to make you feel, oh, great, it might be doing that to cover up the fact that they might have done a human rights violation that same year. There's a certain level of accessibility and awareness that I feel educators have to do. I think the mistake we make is that I say we in the collective sense, not necessarily every individual person, but we depoliticize the arts too much. I think we often look at it and go, oh, this is we're just having a good time. And sure, we are absolutely having a good time, I hope. But there needs to be a standard of us understanding that our work has a context. Our work affects people. Our work empowers people and condemns. And we have a choice and we have the ethical responsibility to be exactly aware of what our intention is and be in context in which that exists.
After Unique does that professorial thing and like, I'm
a zone. I'm sorry.
I'm always afraid to follow that with something. You asked about why there's a distinction between artistry and teaching artistry. It's not so much that I look to make a distinction between them as they are two things that I think all artists should do. I'm not looking to create a distinction as you fall on one side or the other. I like to show that the teaching side is something that's really important that shouldn't be ignored, is the reason I bring that up.
Okay. Would you all consider teaching artistry to be an arts practice? Say someone might describe dance as an arts practice or painting is an arts practice. I know there are fuzzy lines at the border because you could paint and dance at the same time or you could do different things at the same time, but would you consider teaching artistry to be a practice in itself?
Yes, I would say like you were mentioning, a lot of these things overlap. When the teaching begins and the painting starts, it's a gradient, not an art line. But I would say, like anything, it being a craft, it's a skill, something you develop, it's something you improve at. So I would say, by the nature of that existing, every day I get a chance to work with students and get better at helping them understand themselves. So I'd say it is a skill in its own right, and how it overlaps and intersects with other forms is what makes you as a person, what you do, what someone else does, really makes it, adds a level of distinction.
For sure. And I'll follow that up with two, like, the level of importance need to be heightened. Like, I'm in social work technically, and I did this training, and the training was basically helping us like understand how we are community health workers, right? Yeah. So it's like our job is more so on, you can see it as an interruptive or preventative to a lot of the things that people undergo in order to become the kind of person that invites destruction or self-destructs. So when it comes to that, no, it is a practice, and it should be also held to the caliber. Don't quote me on this several things, but like as a carpenter, as a plumber, like all of these things that really contribute to a metaphoric in a physical outflow of the tone that allows a function to be able to continuously function properly. And I like that something to make that clarification, because it's not about teaching or artistry, it's about the relationship between the two. And it kind of becomes like this different thing, but essentially it's kind of like, it's, when we look at one thing, it becomes like self-centric. But when we start to look at things like that, it becomes a central individuality and polar. It's like, there's two sides to it. And it's like, in order to be an artist, maybe you might not be successful because you're not embracing that teacher side. And as a teacher, no matter what you teach, maybe you're not really landing close to all with anybody who's in front of you because you haven't embraced that artist side, so to speak. So it's like, it's kind of like one without the other it doesn't make sense.
All right. Well, I've had fun up here. I hope all of you have enjoyed the conversation. Bleu, in the introduction, had mentioned Teaching Artists ROC. All of us are artists with Teaching Artists ROC. Some of the audience is as well. We are an organization that goes out into the community, schools, libraries, museums, and provides a lot of programming throughout the city of Rochester, Monroe County, and much further. So I invite all of you, if you are interested yourselves in teaching more of your art or with your art, if you have things to share, let us know if you're interested in working with us. You don't need to work with us. I want to encourage teaching artistry regardless. It's about the mission. It's not about how you do it. But if you are interested in working with us, please let me know, ask more questions, get in touch with me. The other thing is, if you've enjoyed what everybody up here has had to say, I also have a podcast, Brush with Knowledge. You can find more information about that at brushwithknowledge.com. It is on all of the big podcast platforms, where I, every episode, bring on a different teaching artist, and we go really in depth into their career and process and what they do. So I would love to have more listeners. Please share that as well. And now, if there's anything you want to share so that people know how to find you.
Yes, I'll start first. If you're interested in me in a teaching capacity, I teach at RIT every semester, usually foundational courses for drawing and painting. I also teach this summer at the Memorial Art Gallery and the Flower City Arts Center. If you go to their websites and go into the classes, a unique fair will be teaching some class of some kind, usually a non-toxic oil painting course. If you're interested in my work, I work with ROCO. I'm a part of the Comp Studios residency, which is just down the street at 339 East Avenue. We have an event we open up every first Friday, so we'd love to have you. If you're interested in my work generally online, my social medias all across the board are Unique Fair Art in some capacity. If you type that in on Instagram, it'll find it. My website is uniquefairart.com, and so all of Twitter, TikTok, these other things. If you're interested in seeing my work in public spaces, I have a piece in the permanent collection of the Memorial Art Gallery in the Modern Art section. If you're interested in seeing those, I hope you enjoy them. And as well, if you have any interest in contacting me, my email is uniquefairart@gmail.com. So thank you again for coming.
My name is James Kegler. James spell as you know how to spell it. Kegler is Kegler. Program coordinator at the Center for Teen Empowerment. If you're interested in the program, you can add me on Facebook, come through. We just actually had a new building built on Genesee, and it's pretty awesome. So please come by and see it. It's awesome. My artist name is MF Scum. Scum stands for Sacred Knowledge Uniting the Masses. MF stands for, yeah, Master of Fine, my friend, whatever it may be. Sacred Knowledge. Oh, for sure. I have music everywhere. If you enjoy the music, more power to you. And you might see me performing around Rochester. I perform at different venues, Flower City, Essex. I'll be at Lux in September. If you know, you know. All right.
Okay, what a night this has been. Okay, I'm Daystar Rosalie Jones, and of course I am a teaching artist, but I also have my own company, Daystar Contemporary Dance Drama of Indian America. We've been around for more than 40 years now, and we performed all over the country, actually, including Finland, Ireland, Germany, Istanbul, Ganondagan. So usually you'll find we do performances at the universities locally, Nazareth College, Monroe Community College, University of Rochester, RIT, as well as in the schools. And I just want to say, I feel that the public school system in Rochester, New York is not paying enough attention to Teaching Artists ROC. They don't take advantage of what we have to offer. I mean, we have a roster of people doing teaching in all of the art forms, and they're just not tuned in. What is it? Is it money? Is it politics? Is it just plain ignorance? They need to wake up. The public school system needs to wake up. Thank you.
RCSD, you got 72 hours to respond. Or by default, you have to give us more foundation aid. Thank you all.
Thank you.
To learn more about everyone on our program, follow the links in the show notes and at brushwithknowledge.com. This podcast has been launched with funding from Genesee Valley Council on the Arts and the New York State Council on the Arts. Recording has been done at RockVox Recording and Production. To learn how you can help support the creation of future episodes, please follow links in the show notes or visit brushwithknowledge.com.